Hi, welcome to ingvid.com. I'm Adam. In today's video, I'm going to continue looking at parts of speech. In particular, I'm going to look at verbs and adverbs. Now, for those of you who watch regularly, there's also a video about nouns and adjectives, and there's a link in the description box below. There will be another video about articles, conjunctions, prepositions, etc. So today we're looking at the different types of verbs and adverbs. What do adverbs do? So it's very important to understand how each of these verbs works. And again, there's different videos for each of these, but know the types so that you can recognize them in a sentence. Again, remember, the parts of speech are the categories that every word in a sentence belongs to. And recognizing each word will help you understand how to analyze a sentence for meaning, for composition, for all kinds of things, and how to write sentences as well. So again, technically, this is for beginners, but intermediate and advanced students, a lot for you to gain from this as well. So the types of verbs. We have the be verb. Am, is, are, was, were, will, be, right? So these are the be verbs. These talk about a state or a situation, okay, of something happening. There's no action, there's just state, okay? What is the situation of the context we're talking about? So very important and probably the most used verb of all the verbs. Then you have your active verbs. For example, you have play, or you have give, so you're giving something, or you're playing tennis, etc. These are actives. These can be written in a passive form. Okay, so was played or is played. Tennis was played by all the kids. Okay, so again, not the best sentence, but that's the verb. Active or passive verbs, where something is actually happening, there's an action. And it's very important to realize that action verbs come in transitive or intransitive form. Sometimes ambitransitive means they could be transitive or intransitive, depends how they are used. A transitive verb must take an object. Okay, a transitive verb must take an object. So for example, want. Okay. Want is actually not an active verb, but it's a transitive verb. And a transitive verb must take the object. So you always want something. You want what? Candy. You want what? To play. Okay, so want always takes an object. Intransitive does not take an object. Okay, so for example, go. Go where? Where does not work as an object. It works as an adverb. So go will never have an object. It will have an adverbial complement, which is a different lesson altogether. If you want to understand how these things work, I have a video about the sentence structures. What is a sentence in English? You can get some more information there as well. So active, passive. Now, there's something called a state verb. So for example, believe or understand or know or think, okay? Here, we use these like action verbs in terms of construction, okay? But there is no action. When you say, I believe you are correct, believe I'm not doing anything. It's just in my head, correct. That's it, right? So there's no action. And state verbs, we never use in the ing form, never use them in a continuous form. That's the main thing to remember about state verbs. Then you have linking and copular verbs. So for example, seem. He seems happy, okay? There's no action here. There's no movement. Nothing is actually happening in the sentence. It's just describing a situation. And it's very similar to a be verb. It's a situation. He seems happy. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but he's not, I'm not doing anything, he's not doing anything. It's just my idea of his state or his feeling, okay? So again, we use these also like action verbs, but there's no action. Then you have your modals like will, can, could, may, might, should. These are all verbs that are used with other verbs, okay? Or by themselves, but with another verb understood. So he can. Can he swim? Yes, he can. But can means swim. He can swim. Can be able to. So these modals give you a little bit of extra information about the main verb. Okay? Will is used to talk about future. Would is talk about hypothetical. Should, recommendation. May, probability. So each of these modals has a particular function. And you should study the different modals and the different functions each has. Auxiliary, these are helping verb. Be, do, have. Okay, these are the auxiliary verbs. They are used to help a main verb do its action. So for example, if you have a present perfect verb, you have or has as the helping verb. In a question, you use a helping verb. Did you go? So did go, not went you, right? You don't do that. You split the verb into its auxiliary and its main. The auxiliary takes the tense, okay? But again, that's a different lesson altogether. And then when it comes to verbs, it's very, very important that you study the tenses. Past, present, perfect, and know how to use the base verb, means just the verb by itself, the idea of the verb, not the action or anything like that, or the infinitive, to verb, to be, to play, to want, okay? So these are the different verbs you need to study. These are the aspects of the verb that you really need to study, okay? And then you'll know how to use them. Now, every sentence in English, every clause in English has a verb in it. At least one verb as the main verb, and then other verbs as infinitives or base verbs. So study these. Now, before I go on, I highly, highly recommend that you get yourself a good grammar book to start studying the basics, at least, of grammar. Without a good grasp of grammar, you can't make good English sentences in speaking or writing. You'll have a very hard time understanding sentences in English, okay? Get yourself a good grammar book, learn the different types of verbs, learn the tenses, start using them correctly, okay? Let's look at adverbs. Okay, so now we're going to look at adverbs, okay? And a lot of people think because adjectives describe nouns, that adverbs describe verbs. And they're correct. Adverbs do describe verbs. They give you a little bit more information about the verb, but they not only describe verbs, they can also describe adjectives. And they can describe other adverbs, okay? So it's very important to remember that adverbs are multifunctional. They do many things. And there are many different types of adverbs, okay? If you want to talk about pace, okay? I walked fast. I walked quickly. I'm talking about the pace, the speed, okay? If you want to talk about the strength, okay? He lifted weights angrily, whatever, or with some sort of intensity or quality is another one. Okay, intensity, like very happy. So I have an adjective. I am very happy. Instead of just saying happy, very happy. I'm making it more, intensifying. Or I can also do the other way. I can mitigate. I can make less happy. I'm somewhat happy. Okay? Negation, like no or not. These are actually adverbs. Expectancy or expectation. For example, already and yet. I haven't done it yet. I have already done it. These are adverbs. They tell you about expectation, about something that's already happened, something that hasn't happened. It could be about time. For example, I just finished. So lots of different ways to describe verbs, lots of different ways to describe adjectives. And if you think about adverbs, I speak very slowly. Slowly describes speak, the verb. Very describes slowly, the adverb. So you can have many different adverbs in a sentence. Some will modify verbs, some will modify adjectives, some will modify other adverbs, okay? So you can mix them all up. Now, you can have simple adverbs like fast, quickly, slowly, highly, intentionally. In many cases, you can take an adjective and add ly. Okay, take an adjective, add an ly to it, and make it into an adverb, but not always. And then there are other words that are just adverbs by themselves. Like, for example, very. Very is just an adverb. You're not going to use it in any other way. And it's an intensifier. Now, I could fill the board with all kinds of different adverbs, but there's not much point in that. Again, you should get yourself a good grammar book and study the different types of adverbs you can use and start practicing them. And when you find yourself something good to read in English, try to pick out the adverbs. Try to pick out the adjectives. Try to pick out each of the different parts of speech and figure out how they are being used in these sentences. Now, another way adverbs are used, we have adverb clauses to talk about or to describe a relationship between an independent clause and a time and a reason and a purpose, okay? So although I like to eat pizza, I don't eat it often. Often, frequency adverb, another type. Okay, often is an adverb. Don't eat, modifying eat, often. Not, negation, right? So you have adverbs all over the place. You have to know how they're being used, etc. Another thing to remember, adverbs often ask questions. They don't, in a sentence, they don't answer what or whom. Okay, these would be objects. They answer where, why, how. I went, I went where? To the store. To the store, although it's a prepositional phrase, and again, we're going to talk about prepositions separately, this is an acting as an adverb to answer the question where, okay? The building was designed by a famous architect. By whom, okay? Designed by whom, it answers the question whom. So that's actually an adjective, object, preposition. So you have to understand what's the relationship between the phrase and the verb or whatever the clause is that came before it, okay? So adverbs often answer these other questions, where, why, how, when, etc. For what purpose, okay? So these are the adverbs, but again, lots of different types. Make sure that you get a good grammar book and figure out which ones you need to know and how to use them, okay? Now, if you have any questions about adverbs or verbs, please go to ingvid.com and ask me in the comment section there. There's also going to be a quiz to make sure that you recognize adverbs and verbs and the different types. And of course, if you like this lesson, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and come back for more grammar lessons and other things like that. Okay, see you then. Bye. Hi, welcome to ingvid.com. I'm Adam. In today's video, I'm going to continue to look at parts of speech, and I'm going to particularly have a... I hate that word.